Hi everybody, welcome to Midnight Mandela. This is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. How y'all doing? So, has it been another crazy week? How you guys hanging in there? Okay, so for me, it's been a little quiet on the Mandela front again. I don't know if we're like just in a valley or if we're in a long-term slowdown. It does kind of feel like things are it kind of feels like we kind of got over the hump. I'm not really sure though if I'm waiting to see, okay? But I mean, then over the next maybe 6 months, maybe we'll have a better idea. But I think some of it is just that some things are just getting so old news that like, oh, another monkey, another bird, a lot of stuff that we used to get really excited about. Oh, another new country. It's getting to be old news, so that might be a lot of it. But still, I do feel like instead of new crazy stuff, there's like new versions of old crazy stuff. So it just seems a little bit less crazy. Like maybe we've kind of hit our stride and found a little bit more stability. I don't know. I'm not sure on that, but that's how I've kind of been feeling for the last while. And maybe it's because there's been a couple weeks where I didn't really find a lot of real shocking Mandelas. And so I just kind of went with some of the smaller ones. Shari, anybody remember the drawings I talked about 2 to 3 weeks ago? The ones that were made using one spiral line. They said it was unique and just a handful of painters were able to do it. Well, now I think that's not the case. I have definitely been seeing those art forms a lot on Reddit lately. And I've definitely been thinking that the level of quality of art that I see online has been extremely next level in recent last few years, especially. That's pretty good. But weirdly enough, though, I don't know. He must be racing some or something because you. That's pretty neat. Hopefully, I'm not. Just occurred to me that I might be doing some kind of copyright issue here, so I'm gonna stop now. You guys get the idea. But weirdly, the mainstream stuff just sucks worse than it ever has. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars because somebody taped a banana to the wall. Somebody sold air for thousands. I mean, like, it's just bad. It's just lame crap. It's like the mainstream art is 99.9% BS. You know, just it's the ability to schmooze and talk and claim and somehow get people to. It's like a scam. Then you go online and you see some of this amazing stuff. So it's a very interesting dichotomy. Does Darkworth figure out he's a guest on the show yet? We shift into another weird place. Another weird. So the personal Mandelas have continued on, but I haven't seen many large scale Mandelas. So I think I talked about last week that the clock tower near my work changed. And so I've been kind of keeping an eye on it. It has continued to change. So if you recall, it went from kind of a straight tower with multi levels to kind of a tiered system, like a pancake that gets smaller and smaller. So at first I didn't like it because the proportions were kind of lame. The clock on it was too big, and then it proportionally, and you couldn't see the bottom of it anymore. So the last week, the main clock has shrunk a little bit, so now it looks in proportion. And there are decorative, I don't know what, trim pieces around each of the levels now. So it actually now looks pretty good. I would say it looks better than it used to. So I'm going to stop complaining about it being ugly. I think it looks nicer now. I didn't really love it before, and then at first when it changed, I loved it even less. But now I am actually liking it more than before. I do agree that people continue to be challenging to deal with, especially on the logic department. It's like, well, I mean, you just like, look, you can't do that. It's not gonna work, obviously, but they keep doing it, and then it just, it's like, So there's been a lot of frustration there with people just not being logical at all, and not even knowing that they're not being logical, and not being able to see that they're not being logical. So it's definitely been a little challenging on the patience, keeping patience on those things. Still can't get used to seeing people pick up stuff with their hands backwards. Okay, so people might be wondering what in the bleep is Ghosty333 talking about. So basically, there's the commonness of people that are super weirdly double jointed continues. So there are a lot of videos now online where somebody goes to pick up something, say this pen, and they can actually bend their hand like opposite and like pick it up like that. Now I can't do it because I just have normal hands, but they'll just bend it around, and then of course it looks totally alien. So yeah. Well, that's been around for a few years now, but it doesn't really stop looking strange. Colorado Skywatch dealing with death of spouse. Sorry to hear that. That is always extremely difficult. I do often wonder if people that have passed are still alive on some other timelines. I would not at all be surprised if that is the case. There's a kind of a part of me that feels like it is at least often the case. I don't have any evidence of it at all, but it does often feel like that. The ferry building clock tower has been being painted for the last 6 months now. Okay, I'm not sure what that one refers to. I'm just talking about the little-ish clock tower near my work. So it's like it's about five stories high. It's like a huge apartment complex, but they have this clock tower. Actually, when I think about it, that's kind of strange. Now, they do have commercial underneath it, and then the apartments are on top. And the commercial is very much empty down there. And weirdly, the address there is really similar to my place, so sometimes I get their mail. So I've been over there a couple of times trying to find where I can return the mail. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with commercial, but it's definitely been... California's getting weirder and weirder. There's a bill right now to ban the enforcement of prevention of theft. So like in businesses. So like if you have a business, if this bill goes through and it's already passed half of the legislature, so there's a good chance this will clear completely in the near future. Very good chance. Since there's really no Republican side to discuss in California, so it pretty much it went through very easily, half the legislature. So basically, the bill will make it illegal for employees to try to prevent theft unless they're a security guard. So even only, I guess it sounds like only security guards will be able to do it, or like police. And a lot of places don't have full-time security guards. So even if you hired like loss prevention experts for your business, say you're like Walmart or something, even they wouldn't be able to go out there and say, hey, don't steal that. Like, we're not even talking about just physical stuff. It sounds like even just any way whatsoever to try to stop any theft whatsoever would be illegal. So like, we don't have enough theft already, right? I mean, like, really, it is next level. I am so glad that I don't have open to the public store right now. Like, so glad. So, and I mean, the only example they had cited for why this should go through was that a security guard was killed trying to prevent a theft like a while ago. And the thing is that it was the security guard that was killed, and security guards will be exempt from the bill. They don't have any examples of any serious injuries of actual employees. At least they didn't cite any. So it's like, why are we making this bill? We're like, it's a bill for a problem that apparently doesn't exist. In fact, most places already strongly discourage employees from getting involved much, if at all. In fact, many insurance companies require that they not do that, and you in many places will fire you if you, like, for instance, the guy across the street that works at the gas station, all he did was sit behind the glass and tell someone not to steal stuff and have to leave. He didn't, like, he wasn't even physically anywhere near, and he was already told that he could get fired if he did that again. So I don't know. It's like, are you just trying to do everything you can to encourage theft? It really does sound like that. It is just next level craziness. I've been seeing and experiencing mainstream events and personal occurrences repeat every 4 to 6 months. I haven't really had that. I've just had weird stuff where it's like this, then it's this, then it's this. Changes. They're trying to make Mad Max out of California. I just don't get it. I really don't. I mean, it just doesn't make any logical sense. It's like a solution to a problem that doesn't exist, that is sure to make another problem 10 times worse. A problem that we already have a big problem with. Anyone ever have stream deja vu? I've only had deja vu once in my life. So, no. I'm weird that way, I know, though. Reading. Yeah, so anyways, kind of the rapture is next. I don't know. I've been hearing that for so many years. Like, it's coming any day now. It's right around the corner. So I guess, I don't know. It's the rapture or aliens. You decide. There has been a lot of alien chatter lately, though, by the government. Some high-ranking government dude has come forward and said that we have multiple alien craft that have crashed, that the government has possession of it. I don't think there's any way he'd be saying this without permission from the government. A lot of people are like, oh, he's risking his life. There's no way. He has been told to say this. Either he's lying and it's disinformation, or it's some kind of disclosure. But either way, I'm sure he has permission, because otherwise, he's not going to survive. So, or it could be a mix, half truth, half lies, or some combo. Not like I ever really trust people claiming to know all of the government secrets and then blab it all. So apparently aliens love California. They show up there in droves every day. Are you talking about the regular residents or the ones that actually aren't human? I am not sure. They have some plans for California. They want people to leave. I don't know. I really don't. I really do not know. I mean, it's not just California that's getting ridiculous. I mean, a lot of the main cities are doing similar things. They're not all as bad as California, but New York is probably at least as bad. Portland, areas in Washington. I've definitely heard Chicago has done a lot of similar things. So, Walgreens security shot and killed a shoplifter here in SF, San Francisco, and 10 days later it happened in New York City also. Yeah, well, I would assume that it was maybe more than just for stealing pants. I would assume that it got rough, and that's how come that happened. I haven't really looked into it, though. I don't think I can really guess exactly what's going on in California, like why it's going this way. I mean, there's a lot of logical theories I've heard. I don't know which one is it, if any. Joe Bloor, we are all in our own personal reality bubbles and realities. Would not be surprised. So, Yeah, maybe we only, maybe all this stuff is out there, and then when we hit a certain frequency, then we see the things that match with that, something like that. I'm really not sure, but at least at least now they have crack pipe vending machines. Do they really? I, I don't even know anymore. Wouldn't they just like break the machines and steal the pipes? I mean, what kind of crack addict has money to put in a vending machine? New York City unveils vending machines for drug users with 3 crack pipes. It's true. You just can't. I mean, like the Babylon Bee and the jokes and reality, I just can't tell them apart. Distributing free crack. Okay. Oh, they're free. Okay, they're free. I'm just saying. They don't have money. They probably spend it all on crack. Okay. So what's to stop them from stealing all the crack pipes and selling them? Public health vending machines. Let's see. So how do you get them if you don't pay? Safer smoking kits that include drug paraphernalia such as bubble pipes. You know what I don't really understand is I don't understand how that makes things safer. So historically, they did give out needles, and the reason they gave out needles is because people were sharing needles, and when you share needles, you can share like any bloodborne disease with that. If you poke your arm and then you poke someone else's arm, you could spread AIDS or hepatitis or all kinds of things. So that really was a lot safer to have a fresh needle and not share it. But I mean, crack pipes, you have burning material in there. I don't think a lot of diseases really spread from burnt crack, to my knowledge. I've not heard of anything. So I'm not sure how that really improves safety. It doesn't prevent hepatitis. I mean, unless I'm missing something, I don't really get it now why you would bother with that. Safer smoking kits. One of the pictures shows a product labeled smoking kit and label which contains a bubble pipe, a mouthpiece, and lip balm. So, some of these I don't get it. Like, we're just trying to make it more pleasant to smoke. Did somebody get an illness because they didn't have enough lip balm? Did they want people? I mean, like, I'm starting to totally not understand the logic at all here. I mean, I guess maybe it's my mistake for thinking there is any, but. Rainbow Cave. Okay, let's check out Rainbow Cave. On to a more potentially pleasant subject here. Unique Rainbow Cave discovered last year in Mount Rainier National Park. Okay, so that's like a supposedly super popular. Whoa. Okay. Now that's pretty awesome. All right, so I'm assuming that's all ice up there. Discovered last year. That's pretty cool. So what makes it all rainbowy? Attack of the Rainbows. Okay. I'm just clicking forward because I don't want to get caught on a copyright. Washington State, when stumbled upon a rare rainbow illuminating the inside of an ice cave. The crystallized colors are caused by naturally occurring algae and light refraction, and the ice thickness determine the spread of the colors. Okay, that sounds like a lot of hooey, but that's the whole timeline, isn't it? Okay, so algae, now we had the green and the reddish algae showed up some years ago. So I guess if you go with the blues and greens of the different thicknesses of ice, I guess you could get rainbow. So what do we see? Yeah, blues. Okay. Okay. Seems like quite a stretch, but sure, it's there, so can't really argue with it. Um, the caves are prone to collapse due to melting. So it's multiple caves? The park officials discouraged people from exploring them, giving the real risk of accidents and death. In 2015, one person was killed and 5 others were injured after collapse at one of the big 4 ice caves in Snohomish County, which is other ice caves. This is not a cave, this is a snow covering that has melted on the underside to create a cave-like appearance. Okay, good enough. Yeah, I think we're going to see more of this kind of stuff because that's how this timeline rolls. Let me just expand it a bit so you can see it a little better. It's pretty cool. Rainbow Cave. So, yeah, I think we'll see bigger and more of this. This is just looks like the opening salvo in this one. Mount Rainier. All this time, and they never knew about it till last year. How long has that park supposedly been around? I saw, just found it yesterday. Live chat, here we go. Didn't Biden sign something for crackpot vending machines? The only thing I recall from Biden is they said something about giving out like aid kits to the homeless, and they did include crack pipes. Or at least there was a big political sting from the Republican side saying, you're giving out crack pipes. And then the Democrat says, oh, no, we're actually not. And then, but there were photos of said kits with some kind of pipe-like item in it that was obviously a drug pipe of some type. Now, I am not a drug pipe expert, so I couldn't really tell you which is which, but... Do you think when someone is that far gone, they care for getting disease from sharing needle? Well, the main thing is that was like many years ago, and I would say that some would, yes. I mean, if you got an old stinky needle or a brand new fresh needle, which one do you use? The drugs weren't quite as powerful back then either. Did we talk about a place called Felicity, the official center of the world? Felicity is the official center of the world. I've not heard of that. Center of the world. Felicity. Center of the world. Felicity. Well... everything you need to know about Felicity, the center of the world. California. Inside the pyramid is a plaque marking the center of the world. This is the center of the advertising. Those who visit can enter a 21-foot tall pink granite pyramid and stand on top of a metal plaque that officially marks the spot that is the center of the world. Quotes. Well recognized as such by both California's Imperial County and France's Institut Geographic National, the designation doesn't stem from science or historical event, but rather from imagination and subsequent endeavors of its founder, Jacques-André Estelle. Okay, so it's not really the center of the world, but they built some crap there and have claimed it's the center of the world. Now, who the heck knows? Maybe in 15 years and a bunch more shifts, everything will clump around it, and it will be the center of the world. But for now, it's not. Estelle has built several other monuments in Felicity, Chapel on a Hill, Stairs to Nowhere. Look, then they had to screen them in so nobody could get on them. Museum of History in Granite. You know, I just heard about this thing. Didn't we have this on like 2 weeks ago or something? Having the history of the world inscribed, blah, blah, blah. 500 engraved panels. This does seem to be kind of a growing shtick. Should be interesting to see how that pans out. I feel sad and angry when I see what have done to the cities. So, you know, I don't know. I still think in the end you choose your direction. And I don't think I think it's more of a spiritual thing. You choose and then you just happen to pick the direction that leads you out if you choose that direction. You choose your final goal. Do you care about yourself and greed and money and all that and not much else? Or do you care about other people and being a good person and trying to do good and blah, blah, blah? I think in the end you still choose. So that's why it's hard for me to be too mad at the government, blah, 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 because I still do think everybody chooses on some level. Japanese have vending machines for everything. Yup. Glad they destroyed the Georgia Guidestones. I don't know what I think about that. I think maybe, you know, we will see a lesser population one way or another. Maybe that's just the bad. We're seeing it now, even if though officially there haven't been that many deaths yet. There's just not people in the stores. So what is going on? Eva, have you seen Tulare Lake is back in California, looking pretty big. Here's the thing, I never heard of Tulare Lake. We've had that on. That was on a couple weeks ago. I've never heard of. There was no Tulare Lake. I have been in California for my entire life, and I am not that young. And there was never been an incident. We've had huge amounts of rains in the past, and there was no sudden existence of Tulare. So I call Mandela on that. To me, it is just arrived. It is not back. But another weird thing, the Chocolate Hills. Okay, let's check that out. Shari's got lots of Mandelas. The Chocolate Hills. I do believe this has been on. This famous tourist attraction. Okay, I thought the Chocolate Hills, I'm not sure I remember them being there. Okay, Philippines, yes. I do remember being in Philippines. A terrain of haycock-shaped hills. What the hell shape is that? Okay. Hay-shaped hills. I don't get how those are. They're just hills. They're not hay-shaped hills. They're domes. How does a dome look like a roll of hay? Okay, whatever. During the dry season, the grass-covered hills dry up and turn chocolate brown. Why would it turn chocolate brown and not like tan? So I guess they're saying the type of plants that grow on them just happen to dye in a chocolate brown color. Chocolate Hills. Yeah, I think I remember this being on. I don't really remember talking about them being actually that chocolate covered, though. Let's see. Here is an old image of them. It may well be that it's grown a tad since we first discussed it. Ah, goes through the... Yeah, you never heard of it either. Yeah. Tulare, he's talking about. Yeah, there was no Tulare. Okay, so I don't know if you guys noticed, but I think it just came out like today, even though this is supposedly happened months ago. They're saying that a crocodile gave birth, apparently in a parthenogenetic way. In other words, like spontaneous birth with no male. Okay, we've discussed this before. I just think it's interesting to be in the news. And it's supposed to be the first time ever for crocodiles. So I dug into the list a little bit because we've been seeing this kind of developing really rapidly. Okay, here we go. This is actually the article on Yahoo. Sequencing of the parthenogenic crocodile's genome suggests that its chromosomes differ from the mother's at their tips, where there's been a little reshuffling of her DNA, a telltale sign of polar body fusion. Okay, I've looked into this parthenogenesis stuff before. I have not seen this shuffling at the tips thing. So it used to be that if it was parthenogenesis, then it would be a clone of the mother. But now they're saying that in parthenogenetic situation, the DNA at the tips like reshuffles. So now we're kind of going back a little bit to that there can be a reshuffling of DNA even though there is no male involved. All right, this guy is an entomologist whose main focus is bed bugs, but has an extensive sideline in identifying parthenogenesis. Okay, so there's getting more and more kinds of parthenogenesis, getting more complicated. All right, they're saying, okay, crocodiles are really ancient species, etc. Let's see, they were talking about how it works again. Let me find this up here. I had it before. Here we go. So this is a kind of an explanation about how this works that I have not heard this version before. Parthenogenesis, virgin birth. As an egg cell matures in its mother's body, it divides repeatedly to generate a final product, with exactly half the genes needed for an individual. 3 smaller cellular sacs containing chromosomes known as polar bodies are formed as byproducts. Now, I've never heard of this. When I was learning this, you basically had one cell, it split in 2, and then that split in 2, and that split in 2, and it was just a bunch of splitting. There were no, like, byproduct polar bodies. Like, why would there be? But apparently that is the story now. Polar bodies usually wither away, but in vertebrates they can perform parthenogenesis. One polar body sometimes fuses with the egg, creating a cell with the necessary complement of chromosomes to form an individual. So this is a little confusing because used to be that the egg would not start to do its division until after it was fertilized to start with. So the whole polar body thing seems like kind of a waste. Why not just make that be a whole nother cell? That's why we used to do the splitting. So, but I guess they needed some kind of way that there's a genetic reshuffling in the parthenogenesis. So this polar body story is now apparently present and explaining how that's done. So this is how we're going to get virgin birth without being identical copies, is this reshuffling. I'm a little confused on how that would even matter, though. I mean, if you take my genetics and you reshuffle them at the ends, isn't that just still the same set of genes? Like, where are they saying now that maybe some genes are silenced and then in the reshuffled version they wouldn't be? Maybe something like that, but I'm still a little confused how that yields a different creature than the first one. Okay, so I was kind of looking more into the parthenogenesis because I'm like, okay, do we have mammals doing it yet? The answer is no, not mammals yet, although they said they were able to artificially induce it in mice and that they also were able to do it in humans, but they did not bring it, like just embryos, they did not bring it to adulthood. Still, interesting amount of experimentation that is currently allowed, apparently without any regulation, with human DNA. Okay, so more stories of how this works. Okay, they're talking about like the virgin verse and Christianity and stuff. So there's reports now of human parthenogenesis have famously existed since ancient times, blah, blah, blah. A geneticist specializing in the reproductive biology of the guppy claimed in 1955 that parthenogenesis, which occurs in guppy in nature, may also occur very rarely in the human species, leading to so-called virgin births. I really feel like these stories are just kind of another step towards it. This created some sensation among her colleagues and the lay public alike. And then there's an explanation. Sometimes an embryo may begin to divide without fertilization, but it cannot fully develop on its own. So while it may create some skin and nerve cells, it cannot create others, such as skeletal muscle, and instead it becomes a type of benign tumor called an ovarian teratoma. Now, we've talked about teratomas, and they just said it was like cancer before, like some kind of weird thing, and then I saw that they were saying the teratomas happen in the ovaries the most commonly. So now they're basically saying it's not just a cancer, it is actually your ovaries, the egg in your ovary just started dividing on its own. And they're saying, okay, it can't develop fully, but why can't it? I could look on this thing in 5 months and it can say that it can sometimes, and I wouldn't at all be surprised. Interesting also, spontaneous ovarian activation is not rare and has been known about since the 19th century. Some teratomas can even become primitive fetuses. Fetiform teratoma. We've had these on. They're pretty creepy. With imperfect heads, limbs, and other structures, but are non-viable. Okay, then there's this kind of story where a boy was found to be a partial human parthenogenesis. So the story here is that it started as one of these teratoma things. Like it started as an egg that started dividing on its own, but then was fertilized after it had already done some division on his own, and the later fertilization was able to allow him to form into a fully formed human. That's the story now. They're also saying that these things are generally only found if there's an abnormality in the child, and then they start investigating it. So, of course, well, what if there wasn't an abnormality in the child that was obvious? They wouldn't investigate, so these things would not be found. So it really opens the door to this already having happened. We've already got a partial parthenogenesis in humans. I feel like we're getting really close to the door on this virgin birth for humans thing. Like, really close. Now I don't know if you remember this, there was a Chinese guy who claimed that he had cloned humans, right? And then it was debunked. But now they're claiming that although he didn't clone humans, they found out that he accidentally somehow actually did cause some kind of a human parthenogenesis thing to happen. So he did sort of clone humans. He just didn't bring it to term and have a fetus. So now they're crediting him with having done that, having possibly been the first person to have caused a case of human parthenogenesis, although artificially. So we're getting really, really close here. And then they go into like the different versions of how the cells divide and stuff. I'm not going to go into all that stuff, but we're really, really sneaking up on this concept. I'm feeling an incoming change in the story of floating islands. I'm expecting them to be switched from the current reeds to used to float to glazed terracotta, which act as buoys below the island surface. Did you have any links or anything? I haven't really checked into it in a while. Lifting the Veil just released an in-depth study on this subject. Okay, wait, what subject are we talking about? DNA has a staple-shaped thing on it since 2016. Old Emmy, yet hardly talk about. I don't remember any staple-shaped thing on the DNA. Let's see, DNA shape. Let's look at it. Shape. Staple. Are you talking about those cross pieces? I do remember those on there. There's the double helix, and then the cross pieces are like the scaffolding that holds it together. I don't remember anything else, though. Is that it, or is there another thing on there? Now, it's true they didn't used to really depict that, but I do remember that there's that ATCG system of connected parts, adenosine, thymine. Was it thymine? Okay. Thymine, guanine, cytosine. So those are those, and I do remember those since college. They used to talk about those for. And the one thing that kind of got me, though, is that they're now saying that some DNA strands are triple-stranded. I'm like, well, how does that work? It's bad when creatures that can eat you start multiplying. There's so many more crocs and gators and stuff now, though, but they're less aggressive. I mean, people have them as pets. They used to be mindless killers. Like, you could not have them as a pet. They could not learn to not bite you. And now you see people as like a 10-foot long alligator, and they're brushing his teeth and stuff. So they are a little less dangerous than they used to be. That's the direction we're heading, anyway. Anyway, you know, I do very much expect that the floating islands thing will continue to expand. We've already seen that it has done that in some way. I don't know exactly how, but I think we're going to get bigger and more and better floating islands. Looking, you'll notice it right away. It's on the close-up strands. I think you mean all those cross connections. You know, I do agree they didn't used to draw those. Those were in my timeline, though. First time in history, Germans are a minority in their own country. Yeah, you know, I just stopped worrying about it. Maybe we're just going to get way more variation in peoples than we used to have. We're also seeing like genetics I've never heard of, like blonde black people. Like they have the features of black people, but they have blonde hair and light eyes. And we're seeing a lot of Caucasians have kind of those Asian eyes. And so there's just a lot of genetic shuffling going on. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe, you know, all that immigration stuff kind of hides a lot of that. All right. So this is kind of a local Emmy that people were on next door going, why is there foam everywhere? So apparently a lot of the local parks have this like foam all over the ground. And no, like people who've lived here their whole life and are old have never seen it before. So apparently it's spittlebug nymphs. We have I've never heard of spittlebug nymphs. I've never seen foam on my plants, but they're now common. They're everywhere. There's spittle everywhere. So basically they suck sap out of these stems, and then they make this foam, and then they hide in the foam. And it's like all over the place around here. So some people thought there was some kind of chemical contamination, but no, apparently it's spittlebug nymphs. So we're always getting new stuff around here. It's one thing I've very much noticed. Strawberry moon. Yeah, colored moons. There was, interesting. There was a really, really red one New York's having all that weird thing with all the smoke from the fires in Canada. Definitely have a lot more travel of smoke and dust plumes in the current timeline. Newest, okay, talking about history and granite, newest discoveries about the pyramids, which have science and actual proof. So no theories. So but all of that stuff is so different now. The shapes. There was no like trap door in the butt of the Sphinx before, but now you could see it. I mean, it's not even a secret. You can see there's a rectangular hole in the back of the Sphinx. It didn't have a tail. There's now all this underground stuff. People actually stuck their camera through the bars of the trap door and saw that there's a channel leading down. So none of that was in existence before. So everything's shuffling around, definitely. People leaving Cali. So last I checked, really, we have not lost much population. It looks like it's about flat line. So what we used to have is we grew about 10% a year, and that can really add up pretty fast. 10% more people every effing year. So in 10 years, that's more than a doubling of the population. And what happened during the pandemic is about 10% of the people left, but we still had the 10% coming in. So basically, we ended up with no growth, or really close to no growth. So when you say a lot of people are leaving, I'm a little confused because they're saying no growth. I think because immigrants are coming in, maybe, that they're making up the difference, because they're saying the population numbers are staying the same. Yet we definitely see that the moving companies are charging a fortune for people leaving California and getting discounts for people moving in, because all the trucks are driving away from California, and not, then they have to pay gas to drive them all the way back here. So there's definitely people with stuff that hire moving vans. There's more of them leaving. So I don't know who's coming in. I don't know how that works. Are they lying? Rents haven't gone down any, but now they're saying it's because investors are snapping up all the properties. So I don't know. I'm in Cali. None of my neighbors have moved recently. So I know quite a number of people have moved out of my area. Number of people in the club. My hairstylist said half of her customers have left California. Her long-term customers, had been long-term customers, have left. So there's definitely people bailing. Rainbow peacock. Okay, let's check it out. Rainbow peacock. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. So it looks like it's a piebald. Basically, it's got so it's got white up the middle, and it's got it's like a half albino. We didn't have piebald in the old timeline, but it looks like that's what this is. So it has half of its normal colors out here. Well, maybe less than half. On the body, it has about a third of its normal colors, and a third it's totally washed out. And then on the tips, looks like normal colors, but in here it has partial color. Look at that. And then these white spots. That's totally awesome. That is totally awesome. I bet we'll see more of those. More red over here. The normal green ones out there. Kind of yellow green ones over here. That's really cool. I like that. Now if they can just invent peacocks that don't scream bloody murder, we'll be in good shape. Look up population decrease, people having less children. Yes, that's true in every country that's like a first world country, is that the fertility drops, the birth rate drops. People don't want to have kids as much because they're extremely expensive but not useful. They don't help on the farm because there is no farm. There's a whole bunch of reasons why it drops. The extreme expense is part of it, but it's not the only part. So that was already happening, and immigration kind of covers it. At least that's the official storyline if you look at the official math. I mean, who the heck knows anymore? I really like that peacock, though. I like peacocks, except for their screaming. I mean, I guess I just like the way they look. They're really awesome. The way they behave, well, okay, maybe. Not great, not horrible, but they scream a lot. They go, ah, ah, but it's like, it sounds like somebody yelling, ah, and it like spreads. It just bounces through the valleys, and it's just so loud. So, all right, doink. All right, spittlebug's doink. This one is from Taro, our friend in Japan, who I call Taro. I'm a little, not quite old enough to really be sure on this one. And this might have played more in Japan, but if you remember the Thunderbirds, which is like a very early, not exactly cartoon, I guess it was a stop action type of thing that I think my brother used to watch more. I do kind of remember it. Unfortunately, I'm just not sure on this, but yet it does look weird. But anybody who's old enough to remember the Thunderbirds, they had this ship called Thunderbird 2, and it just looks different. At least Taro believes it does. I am suspicious on it, but I can't swear. But anybody who remembers back that far, is this the Thunderbird 2 you remember? Specifically, this tail portion here. I thought it was more like just kind of like it not connected in the middle, and it didn't look like cassette tape here. That's how I remember it. I'm a little suspicious on this vent system too, but yeah. Is that how you remember Thunderbird 2? This was really kind of an amazing show for its time, because the amount of detail they would put into this to make it look fairly realistic. I think it was like the 60s. And then they had these kind of puppet dudes that would do it, but that were the... so it was kind of like live action puppetry, diorama set stuff, but they were very detailed in it. So, you know, they had, I mean, it was, the amount of effort that they had to have put into this thing was next level. Big in Japan. Okay. I do remember my brother watching that. So, is that how you remember Thunderbird 2? If you could remember. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Was it claymation? I thought it was more like a puppet kind of thing. It's not really claymation. It was like stop action and puppets, I think. All right, so there's that one, and then there has been an interesting lot of, for me, and I'm not sure if everybody else, but for me, there's been a lot of return, like flip-flops of stuff that have been just an Emmy for quite some time. And this is another one. It has been Smokey the Bear. So there's a bunch of Smokey the Bear Mandelas. One is that it became Smokey Bear. And two was that it Smokey changed from S-M-O-K-E-Y to S-M-O-K-Y. The E disappeared. So like Smokey Bear. And then the third one was that some of us remember that Smokey the Bear, had kind of a tan outfit and a shirt, and it was like sort of a ranger kind of a clothing with long sleeves, and basically just he had a shirt and then basically a bear head and fuzzy hands, and that was it. That was the complete bareness of him. You didn't see any fuzzy parts other than hands or head. The current Smokey the Bear, which is Smokey Bear, has like blue jeans, and there's a big fuzzy bear body and kind of a stomach. So that would be the third Mandela. So apparently, our friend over on Retcon here. Wait, we don't need this one anymore. Found, and it's interesting to watch this thread because some people are like, oh, it's residue, but it's not residue exactly, because now if you look up, it's still kind of specific. It still says Smokey Bear, but then everywhere you look, it says sometimes called Smokey the Bear. And you will see, and it's interesting here because this person is only talking about the spelling of Smokey, where the first thing I noticed was the is back. Smokey the Bear hand puppet. So that's number one. It's still officially Smokey Bear, but now I'm seeing a lot of the everywhere. And officially it was sometimes called Smokey the Bear now, including this old toy, apparently. They're just saying, oh, hey, look, the E is back in Smokey, so it's not Smoky anymore. So this is a flip-flop here. It is indeed Smokey with an E again. It is not Smoky anymore. And that seems to be fairly stable. But you'll just see different people talking about different things. So I'm trying to look at this, and I can't really tell if, because the body is just black. So, and what's this outfit here? It looks... it doesn't really look like either one. It doesn't look like the Tan Ranger outfit, but it doesn't look like the furry stomach outfit either. So I don't know what's going on with that thing. It doesn't fit any of them. But so apparently the E is back. The is a little bit like a 10% back. It's not totally alien anymore. Last week I saw a normal rainbow and was very excited, but a couple days later back to backwards. I am so oblivious to the reverse image things. I'm not sure I'd even notice if it flipped on me. It's one of the reasons I'm not even sure if it flipped the first time. For some reason, that is just not something that my brain really notices. The first Emmy about it was it went from Smokey to Smoky and went back to Smokey. See, that was totally not the first Mandela for me. For me, the first Mandela was the disappeared. It went from Smokey the Bear to Smokey Bear. Then the next Emmy was it went from Smokey to Smoky. And then the next Mandela was that it didn't have his tan shirt anymore. So, different timelines. Smokey. So we're back to Smokey. No more Smoky. Let's see. Got that one. Spittlebugs. So we've had this one on a little bit, but it's kind of grown a little. Grow mine. You can see it's highlighted because I was looking at it earlier today. So the natural reactor, like nuclear fission natural mine in Oklo, Gabon on the west coast of Central Africa. So they're saying there was a natural nuclear fusion reactor. So originally this was one natural nuclear reactor for me that showed up some years ago. Now there's 16 of them at this location. So that's apparently they have fissioned themselves into 16 since then. So they're saying like this location had natural nuclear fusion reactions thought to have taken place approximately 1.7 billion years ago and ran for hundreds of thousands of years. I don't think I remember it being that long either. It's estimated to average under 100 kilowatts of thermal power during that time. So they're saying these are like uranium locations and that somehow natural nuclear fission developed and was somehow controlled by a natural process of the water coming and going. And over the course of 3 hours, due to like basically it would heat up, burn off all the water, and then somehow the lack of water would cause the fission to lessen, and the heat would drop, that would allow the water to return, which would restart the fission, and it would do this cycling like in approximately 3 hour cycles for apparently hundreds of thousands of years. So yeah, 16 sites now instead of one. I don't think it'll be long before we find that that's happening in other, or supposedly happened in other parts of the world. So I think we're getting to where like this kind of fission fusion situation is more doable. The physics is more manageable. It's more possible, such that it could even happen on its own. If that's the case, then we'll be able to do that ourselves and harness that ourselves more. We might get, I think we'll be getting that. It's coming. Basically, physics is changing to allow us to have this. Let's see. The nuclear reactor formed when a uranium-rich mineral deposit became inundated with groundwater, which could act as a moderator for the neutrons produced by nuclear fission. A chain reaction took place, producing heat that caused the groundwater to boil away. Without a moderator that could slow the neutrons, however, the reaction slowed or stopped. The reactor thus had a negative void coefficient of reactivity, something employed as a safety mechanism in human-made light water reactors. After cooling of the mineral deposit, the water returned and the reaction restarted, completing a full cycle every 3 hours. So I'm a little confused by this because I've actually never heard of removing of the water stopping the process. It was always the adding of the water helped keep things cool. Now they're basically saying that we have this fail-safe when the water's gone, the process stops. Of course, that might be, I'm thinking of nuclear fusion. Now they're talking about this fission thing. I'm actually completely at a loss of what even the heck they're talking about here. I've just never even heard of any of this crap, other than some mumblings about it the first time I looked into this cave site thingy Madoogle, which was at that time really vaguely described as to how it might happen. And it was quite theoretical, and it looks like it's pretty much accepted now. Most of the non-volatile fission products and actinides have only moved centimeters in the veins during the last 2 billion years. Studies have suggested this is a useful natural analog for nuclear waste disposal. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so very, very sus for me personally. They sound like someone is killing them. I assume we're talking about peacocks here because, yeah. The only giveaway is it's the same sound over and over and over again, and you would expect some variation if it was a human. But the first few times you hear it, you're definitely like, who's screaming? And then once you get used to it, you know it's peacocks, but it's still really loud. So I really don't think I'd want to live with those really nearby. I mean, they're a lot worse than like roosters, for instance. I remember Smokey with pants and suspenders, and I also remember him in Ranger's uniform. I have not seen that Ranger's uniform since I saw the pants. Let's see. Let's just look up. I'm going to put in the bear, but I don't think we're going to find the bear. I may also have to go to Google. I don't know what it is about Swiss cows lately, but their image search has been slow as molasses. Okay, a little bit better here. Okay, so typing in Smokey the Bear, I'm only getting topless, jean-wearing Smokey. It appears to me that the Ranger uniform one is gone. Like I said, since this one showed, I have not been able to find hide nor hair of Ranger Smokey. He now is like Lumberjack Smokey or something. So, you know, like the guys on the front lines of firefighting might dress like this. So it's just a whole different shtick. He's out there with a shovel, literally fighting the fires. Before he was kind of a nerdy looking dude. Now he's this lumberjack looking dude. Oh, yep. Can't. I don't see it anywhere. Nope. Still nope, nope, nope. You can see that the E is in all of the Smokies now. And there are no indications of any other spelling currently that I can find. That the Smoky version seems to be totally gone. Yep, it looks like it's totally gone. There is no indications of that version. All right, Shari's got another weird music instrument. They're sort of like new birds. Dare I click on this? Yes, I'm over 18. I don't know why that's supposed to be adult only. I have no idea what that is. Looks awesome. A little bit difficult to play. They need to come up with a totally awesome one that's easy to play so I can learn it. All right, I don't have a Telegram account, so there's going to be no logging into that. Board Panda. There's like an endless bunch of weird instruments now. The crystal bachette is a unique instrument that has blown the world away with its surreal sounds. Invented in 1952. Constructed from glass rods, fiberglass cones, and a large steel plate. Players wet their fingers before playing the instrument so they can create vibrations. The vibrations are then amplified by the cones and the plate, creating uniquely atmospheric sound. All right. Since the way my setup is, I only can hear sound through the headphones. I want to hear it too. All right, I'm going to jump ahead and play a very small snippet because, again, I do not know about copyright, but playing music is quite risky. All right, let's try this snippet over here. I don't know, it doesn't sound that different to me. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just used to all the synthesizers and stuff, but it is definitely a beautiful instrument. And I've certainly never heard of it. Okay, got you. So, just wanted to cover the New York fires a tad, just because, or the New York smoky skies. Just because it's next level. It's like every one of these is more next level than the one before. New York smoke skies. I'm going to use Google because they have news option here. Worst quality air in 20 years. I mean, I would say it's worst quality air ever. And it looks like it's a big chunk of the East Coast is experiencing this. I mean, some of it is just completely like you can't even see. People are calling it Mars. Live cams. I mean, literally just can't, like, you're not going to go outside kind of a weather. I think this is the image I used here. That stuff just didn't used to happen for me. I mean, it didn't used to be that level. All right, this live cam is now at night, so you're not going to see red anymore. But apparently the live cam at some point did show that image, which is just crazy. I mean, it is, ironically, they're calling it Mars, but Mars is not that red anymore. It is redder than Mars because Mars stopped being red. They are talking about mask and mandatory staying at home in Toronto again because of smoke. Okay, so, I live in Southern California, and we had, what is it? It probably was quite some many years ago. Was it maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago? We had epic firestorms here. It literally was actually to the point where I was not sure if I needed to leave, how I could get out, because there was fires to the north, there was fires to the south. You couldn't drive either direction, and then there was fires on the westbound 78. So it was like I was all hemmed in. Luckily, there were fires back behind the hills behind me, but they were able to stop that at Daly Ranch. That was a little scary, but they were able to stop it. So I didn't think I would have to evacuate, but if I did, there wasn't really anywhere to go. And if it did get bad here, it would have instantly clogged all the roads out, which were already clogged because of the other three fires. And like 200 homes burnt just a little bit south of here. Like, I would drive up to the top of my hill here, and I could look from the top of my hill. I could see those homes on fire. Hundreds of homes there. I think that was like 4,000 homes around here burnt during that firestorm season. And, thousands of acres. There was a giant ton of acreage in Fallbrook that burnt. It would look, yet, even though I was in the very epicenter of these epic firestorms, it never looked even close to how bad it is in New York right now, which is not anywhere near actual fires. It was a little bit reddish. It was stinky. We did wear masks. The masks did build up some ash from just breathing in and out. I actually had to work outdoors painting houses at that time. So, you could smell it, but there was no way the skies were even, they weren't even 25% that red. It was a bit. So that's why I'm like, this is just not right. It's not right. Even with epic fires, this is not right. I don't know why are they making it mandatory stay at home in Toronto? Why is it mandatory? I mean, isn't it your choice if you want to go out? It's not like you breathing outside is going to contaminate other people. All right, so we got that. All right, this last one, 120. Yeah, looks good. This is the last one. It's probably my favorite one of the day, although I have to say that rainbow cave is pretty awesome too. But this is just another one of those kind of Avatar world or fantasy world kind of things. So, never heard of this. Kazi. So the story now is that in India, and this is still done today, but it's gone back for hundreds and hundreds of years. India's got a lot of neat stuff now with their stepwells and a lot of other stuff, but there is a tribe or group of people called the Khasi, Khasi, in India that for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, who knows how long, they have trained trees to grow their roots over rivers and like create a bridge out of roots. So the story is that they start out with some bamboo pieces and then they plant this tree, which is one of the ficus species. And then the tree gets a certain age, it starts churning off aerial roots. And then they take these aerial roots and they start training them across the river. until they have an entire walkable bridge. And as the tree continues to grow, and if you know these like, their ficus is basically like one of those rubber tree species. So they get massive. They live for hundreds of years. So apparently they really, I haven't really looked into the exact lifespan of these giant rubber tree family trees, but they're saying that some of these bridges are 600 years old. And then they just keep refeeding any new roots into the structure. So you kind of maintain them, you trim off roots that are going the wrong way, and you just take the young roots and feed them back in. So over time, the bridges get stronger and stronger. And they run the roots all the way across the river, and then they plant them on the other side. So then the tree is getting sustenance from over there, and the roots are like shoring up all of the side on both sides of the river. So what happens is, if there's like a giant flood, these roots all just hold everything together. Like the tree's got its roots way, way deep down on both sides, so it holds up the banks. The roots themselves are basically, even if all the soil were gone, the bridge would probably hold up. And so these bridges just don't wash out. So if you built, like, say, an artificial bridge there, it could easily be washed out, but not with these root bridges. And you could see in some cases they even have multi-levels, like this one, which is really awesome. I almost made this the thumbnail, but then I, for some reason, really wanted to do the New York one. I'm not exactly sure why I wanted to mark that. I think the New York one, it was like, okay, this is the worst I have ever seen New York. I have a feeling that there's going to be something that's like way worse or something. I really had this strong feeling, like, even though that's not technically so much of a Mandela as these, but these are so amazing. So this is a double level one. So, sometimes this water can go way high up. It might even go, way, way up here. Any bridge that was totally dependent on the dirt could easily wash out. Or like a big branch would come and like knock it out or knock the foundations out. But so this looks like it was the first level, and then they started, here's the main tree, and then they started building a second level up here. They said that some of these are so strong that they can even hold up hundreds of people. They sometimes put like paver stones in here to make it easier to walk on and like shore up any holes. So say there's like kind of a hole between the roots, just put a paver stone there. Maybe over time the roots will grow over the paver stone and lock it in. So these are just so cool. And then they're like, well, every architect does it a little different, and every one of these looks different. They can live for hundreds and hundreds of years. So you can see this one is like a little bit younger one. But none of them are super young if they're all the way across. Interestingly, I don't really find images of partially constructed ones. You can see they're putting like things in here to kind of make it easier to walk across. But they do kind of have to be maintained. But on the flip side, they were saying that interest in these has been rejuvenated in recent years, and the people who once had lost interest in these bridges have started maintaining them again. So it sounds to me like you could probably, like, they just keep growing, and you just kind of have to snip down. You'd have to snip down and kind of retrain some of them. This one was a really neat one, but it's so tiny. See if I can find another version of that. Hopefully this one's a little bit bigger. There we go. So this one is pretty well established. You can see over time it just becomes a really nice bridge. I mean, you're probably not going to drive your cars over these, but the other thing they're saying is that, like, when there's very high flooding, all the main bridges get knocked out, like all the ones that cars can drive on, and these are the only remaining bridges left when that happens. This one's a really neat one too. So awesome. So I've never even seen any of these or heard of them ever. And it's like Avatar. It is just so awesome. Some trees can really move on their own, you know. We've had those on. Those are the ones that like the roots grow this high and then they like grow new root system here and then like the old root system dies and then the whole tree kind of scoots over, which is pretty bizarre. Of course it's slow. It's not like it's going like that, but at least not yet. Oh yeah, so Shari had this thing. Okay. Yeah, I should put that one on. That's a good point. So Shari dug up this, which is interesting about the Tiananmen Square story. So this thing for me has really shifted around. Now, I know for some people, they really remember Tank Man getting run over. I am not one of those people. To me, he never got run over. And I always thought it was weird that he didn't because they'd always say that China was so mean and blah, 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 but they didn't run him over. And I also remember them really looking into anybody died, and there was no evidence that anybody died, but there were people who like disappeared. Like people were taken by the government and never seen again was the story. But there were no bodies, there was no blood, there was no evidence of any killings on site. The story was people probably may have been killed, behind closed doors later for taking part in this. All right, so the other thing about this article that Shari found was, I'm not sure how to take it because this looks like it's kind of like a very much a website that basically just pushes China is actually good, China, 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 China good, China good, China good. So this could all be like a giant psyop from China, basically. But we have seen that the recent years, there's all this story. I've had this on before. There's images of people that got run over by tanks, dead bodies everywhere in Tiananmen Square, all kinds of stuff. If that's all true, then why would Tank Man not have gotten run over, yet he wasn't? But there are changes in the video for me because I don't remember him having bags in his hand. I remember him going like this. It was like this famous thing where he stands in front of the tanks and he puts his hand up and says stop. And he did not have any grocery bags in his hand. He just did that. And in this timeline, he climbs all over the tank, and that did not happen in my old timeline. In this timeline, they also suddenly started releasing footage of images of a bajillion tanks lined up to Kingdom Come behind him, and this pullback image, which we never saw for decades and decades in my old timeline, but now is a thing. You could see he's got the garbage bags. I actually don't remember this thing either back there now that we're talking about it. Okay, so the storyline here now is that that there was two events going on at the same time. One was a worker revolt, that the worker revolt people were violent and attacking the military and burning the military, and that it was really the people killing the military that was the real thing. And then it got spun by the evil capitalist America to be the reverse. And here's a weird thing, because it says the story that the Chinese troops machine gunned hundreds of innocent student protesters on the night of the 3rd or 4th of June has been thoroughly debunked. Well, I don't remember any story of Chinese troops machine gunning anybody, not to mention hundreds of innocent student protesters. Apparently that's the story now. Well, they're saying it's a hoax. Okay, and then they've got these people they're claiming were there and didn't see anything. Well, if that's the case, then it would just be my original timeline. Like, not much happened except for, a bunch of protesting. So I don't know how to take this. Is our country just a bigger liar in this timeline and none of this ever happened? But yet this is this Chinese apologist, possible PSYOP disinformation site. So, have I looked up the actual words of the Chilean diplomat and verified that he really said that nothing happened? Or are they just claiming it? or maybe he wasn't around when it happened. I don't know. So it's just like everything is so complicated that you just don't know who to believe. Other people saying nothing happened. So somebody made a blog post saying nothing happened. I mean, is this person hired by China to say it? Was it threatened? Were they threatened by China to say it? Were they paid? Were they not even there? Did they even exist in China? I mean, anybody can say, I was a reporter at Tiananmen Square and this is what happened. And you may not have even been there, right? That person, who knows if they were there? Can you prove that they were there? They could have video and say, this is the video I took, and you would not know if it's true. So I don't know how to take this, but yet then maybe it is. I just do not know how to take it in this age of disinformation. I mean, like if John Stossel came up and said, I was there and nothing happened. Well, I at least know John Stossel is a real guy who did real reporting for decades and decades and is not like a fabrication of this website. But so all of these things, 99.9999% of humans on Earth will not be able to verify anything in here. Okay, so facts or fiction. Facts, they're claiming no one died, which, like I said, would be my original timeline. Here are a few more examples of what Western journalists said about what happened. That we saw no bodies, no injured people, ambulances, or medical care. So, yeah, that was my original timeline. Is it all a big psyop, or is this all a big psyop? I don't know. Is it 10 different timelines clashing? Pick your timeline. Students marched peacefully. I do not remember anything about there being any kind of worker protest during the time, though. That is one thing. There was never a single statement about that being something happening at the same time. WikiLeaks cable from the U.S. Embassy, sent 1989, also reveals the eyewitness accounts of Latin American diplomat and his wife. They were able to enter and leave Tiananmen Square several times and were not harassed by troops. Remaining with students until the final withdrawal, the diplomat said there were no mass shootings in the square. No mass shootings. Okay, were there shootings? Just no mass shootings. Propaganda involves not only exaggeration but also omission. Western media rarely show pictures of tanks and military vehicles burned down because demonstrate. So I don't remember anything about any violence from the protesters either. And this storyline here says the protesters were viciously violent, burned and killed a bunch of military, like burned them alive. I'm going to be really careful scrolling down because shortly after this, there is one that, yes, this one. I can't show this on YouTube. It's basically a burnt dude, and that is not allowed. The body of a young soldier had been beaten to death, was stripped naked, and hung from the side of a bus, etc. That's what this is going to show. So I'm going to close this down now because if that gets on YouTube, then they will, if they see it, they will delete this whole video. You're not allowed to show video of dead people. We went from seeing the guy being overrun to him jumping on the tank, and now it was a hoax. So they're actually saying that him jumping on the tank is real, according to this source. Just my concern is I don't know if I trust this source any more than I trust the American media or anybody else's media, because it also has an agenda. And with everything having an agenda, how do you know what's true? I don't. The YouTubers are all now saying there were student protests, but there were no shootings and no one died. So is that the new timeline? Is that going to be the new truth? Or is it a giant Chinese psyop run by bots? clashing of the timelines. I don't know. It's just getting crazier every second. I mean, they can so easily make video. They could fabricate video. They could fabricate images. The AI could make this in like 5 seconds now. So that's why it just gets so... Anyways, okay, so I am pretty much done with the Mandelas I have. So if you guys have any. But again, I think we're starting to see that Chat GPT, what if this I think we're seeing now that basically any reality could be made on video or photos. So I was kind of wondering if this is going to be like, it could make way for epic numbers of Mandelas and variant timelines that could all be covered up. It would be really pick your reality, because there's these. So for this thing, there's ample evidence it didn't happen, but then you could just say it's a psyop and pick this other version, but yet there may well be ample evidence that that's a psyop. So it really is going to get down to like, which one do you like better, So I kind of thought maybe we would get like epic Mandelas. I haven't really seen that yet though. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Get out the popcorn. Where I'm currently at, they're calling it the Tiananmen Square Massacre. Yeah, we had that on a few years ago where they started calling it that, the Tiananmen Square Massacre. And that was one of the things I was like, that didn't happen. There were no deaths in my timeline. It was the Tiananmen Square protests. Or, that's about it. They were just saying it was horrible because they wouldn't let him protest, and some people disappeared later. That was the main story. Seriously, can't even open my Bible anymore. Yeah, I don't... Everything's so different. It's just impossible not to see it, It's just everywhere. Maybe it's just a constant reminder that reality is not what we thought it was. And maybe that's good, maybe we have to constantly, well, don't have to, but maybe it would be good for us to constantly be reminded that things are ephemeral. Don't take it too seriously, maybe. Island of Socotra. Yeah, that one's been on. I actually watched a number of documentaries on Socotra many years ago, like 20, 30 years ago. I was in the plant club. We even had some experts that had gone to the island. Was it the island? Socotra. I can't remember. I think it was an island. And took all these video and slides, and they're talking about all the crazy plants. And that's changed too, because it used to just be one weird plant here and one weird plant over the hill. Now it's packed. I mean, it really is looking like Avatar a lot over there now. Like, really amazing. I remember they specifically said, these plants aren't all over the place. You have to hike, you have to work. But now they really are like all over the place. Anyway, get out your popcorn. We'll see where we're heading towards next. It does seem like the Mandelas have kind of gotten a little quieter, but then, you look at the AI stuff and the video stuff and the alien stuff, so, maybe that's going to be the next round of weird. I think our vibrations are changing, and with every change we see the things that were in that vibration we couldn't see. Yeah, it's almost like they were there the whole time, maybe, but you just couldn't see them because your vibration didn't match. I've been kind of thinking maybe it's something like that. New York skies look like what people who have seen future versions of Earth having a permanent red sky due to the sun. I wonder if we're going to turn into Mars. It's like, what is that old sci-fi one where people moved to Mars and then they slowly adapted the planet. It's almost like we're turning into Mars. Mars has weirdly gotten water, it's got ice, it's gotten bluer skies, and our skies are turning red. Actually, I just thought of that. That would be weird if the size of Mars compared to Earth has changed. That would be freaky if we turned into Mars. We'll turn into the Martians. Our bodies are changing. It's actually kind of creeping me out now that I talk about it. Yeah, and oh my gosh, you're right. Yes, that's true. Some Mandela people remember Mars being the third planet. Oh, that is just a weird, creepy thought. I don't know. There's a lot of weird coincidences involved there. And then people say that maybe we were the like the descendants of Martians. So I don't know if time is circular. Maybe we take. I don't know. My brain is starting to fry the more I think about this. It keeps coming up with ideas of how it could be, but yet, so we're Mars now, basically. Is Mars going to turn into Earth? Ah, ah. That is a new thought. I have not thought of that before. So there's some areas to kind of flop around in my head with that. We're looping around to the Martian apocalypse. Yeah, I don't know. Nimrod is back, and they are rebuilding the Tower of Babel in the mental state of humans. Maybe. I'm not. What is Nimrod again? I forgot. Nimrod. The son of Cush and therefore great-grandson of Noah, Nimrod was described as a king in the land of Shinar. Oh, is that the one that they're saying is like Trump or something? I'm not. I have to admit I totally don't buy that story at all. I feel like it's a huge stretch, but I don't know. Maybe if enough people believe it, it'll become true. Who the heck knows? Anyways, all right, people. Oz is done. I don't have any more. Since last year, which is impossible, so it's officially an ME. And it looks ridiculous, and no, NASA did not have one, but now they do. Wait, what is it that they had? I saw a picture of the Space Force Guppy, Super Guppy from 1967. That was a little bit... Let's see. A few months ago when I looked it up, there was only the 1967 version, but the other day I looked up and they got one flying around. So they have what? A Space Force Super Guppy? I don't even know what the heck that is. A Space Force Super Guppy. I can't make this stuff up. Okay. I've never heard of those words paired together. Super Guppy, oversized cargo transport. Super Guppy turbine. Most awkward plane. I got 20 more minutes, so I guess I could talk a little bit more. Oh, this is totally not loading. Good old NASA website won't load, of course. My computer, knock on wood, has been working really good for a number of weeks. Maybe that's another indicator of slow Mandela times when my computer is working very nicely. Transportation of oversized cargo has been a tremendous problem. NASA's Super Guppy offers practical solution. Cargo loading is simple and efficient. Wow. Okay. Okay, so what? They just stick other planes inside this plane. Okay, okay. Yeah, that does look pretty crazy, doesn't it? It looks like a whale. Yeah, I've not seen this thing. So you're saying there was a 1967 Super Guppy? Space Force Super Guppy. Since when did Space Force even have time to do anything? I mean, Trump just made that a couple of years ago. All right, and there's a 1967 Super Guppy? Oh, looks like it, maybe? It was the successor of the pregnant guppy, the first of the guppies. All right, this one might be it. The huge weird airplane built to carry. Okay, isn't that the article? This is the original Super Guppy. Yeah, no, I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. The aerospace line pregnant guppy preparing for flight tests in 1962. Aerospace lines 62. The pregnant guppy was derived from one of Boeing's first airliners. Wow. You see, I just remembered them taking these type of capsules and stuff, and a crane would like plop it on a flatbed, and then they'd slap a tarp over it, and then they would just truck that across country. They didn't have something that they could load these space capsules into like this. I don't remember anything like this. It was trucked on a flatbed with a big fat tarp and some and and they would just have, extra security driving around it, and that was it. Then that showed up that thing where they would like slap the space shuttle on top of another plane. That was never a thing for me until like 4 years ago or something. It really looks like a whale, doesn't it? It does not look like a guppy. This is crazy. Since 67, I've never seen that before. So cool, I guess. This is new. What country has a space force? The world's first space force was the Russian Space Forces, established in 1992. Okay, maybe, but I just remember that there was no space force until Trump did. Oh, there's a space force, and I'm like, what space force? We don't have a space force. When did they have time to do all that? Okay, so you remembered originally being the super guppy, but now the current one's the super guppy and the old one's the pregnant guppy. Okay, I don't know. I don't remember any guppies. I don't know. I don't know. It's all Mars from here, people. When did the Space Force even start? Okay, so I think they're saying the pregnant guppy was just the military, and the current super guppy is the Space Force. So I don't think that the current Space Force had time to make this, but maybe it was already in process and they just claimed it. All right, let me just see when the United States Space Force. When Trump made that, I'm like, well, what are they going to do? Like, what's special? I mean, we already have NASA and all that stuff. What's going to be so special about The Space Force. Stories of service. How can you have stories of service if you've been around for 3-4 years? All right. Olympian to airman. Airman to Olympian. Like father, like son. Turning the tide of battle. I'm just curious if they had any old stories on there, but I don't see it. Somehow I feel like I want to make the Star Trek sounds after this. AFMC reaches 1 year anniversary of servicing Major Command. Blah, blah, blah. Is the Space Service branch of the Armed Forces. Along with the U.S. Air Force, the Space Force is part of the Department of the Air Force. Blah, blah, blah. The U.S. Space Force traces its roots to the Cold War. Okay, it was the Western Development Division. The world's first dedicated space organization was in 1954. Most notably in the Persian Gulf War, often referred to as the First Space War. I have never heard of the Persian Gulf War often or ever once referred to as the First Space War. Ever. U.S. Space Forces have participated in every U.S. conflict since the Vietnam War. Most notably the Persian Gulf War. What? The first discussion of a U.S. Space Force occurred under President Dwight Eisenhower's administration in 1958 and was nearly established in 1982 by Ronald Reagan. The 2001 Space Commission argued for the creation of a Space Force, but due to September 11 attacks, the war on terror, any plans were put on hold. In 2019, the United States Space Force Act was signed into law, establishing the U.S. Space Force as the first new independent military service since blah, 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 blah. Okay, so still 2019, that sounds about right. Trump era, I just remember that. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on it, but it definitely seems like there's a few things in here that are a little sus, but nothing I could lock down. Fun fact, when you alter a point in time, it ripples in all directions. Yeah, well, that's what they say in quantum physics anyway. Okay, what was the first Space Force? What country had the first Space Force? That might be a question for ChatGPT 3. The world's first Space Force was the Russian Space Forces. I haven't really heard of that, but I don't know a lot about the Russian names for things, so I couldn't really say on that one. Established in 1992 as an independent military service. However, it lost its independence twice, first being absorbed into the strategic rocket forces, etc., etc. Okay, so Russia's still the first one. Although, yeah, I know that Wiki really made it sound like we had something like that, but we just didn't call it the Space Forces. A little bit slippery there. Now, even China had Space Force before USA. I don't remember China having a Space Force. What the hell? They didn't even have a space station until a couple years ago. I would definitely keep an eye on this. I have a feeling they're going to say that we had a Space Force, but it was just called something else. And this act thing will just be some kind of little extra thing that maybe they'll say Trump was hamming it up or something. I have a feeling we're going to see this go back in time. Like all the tech. I was showing everyone the postcard saying, look, we already have a Space Force, but then the card changes, it says Space Lines. Don't you just love it when stuff like that happens? Homeland Security. Yeah. How much of this total baloney and hogwash is just Mandela covers, and how much is government stupidity, and how much is actual not stupidity but lies and cover-ups? It's just so endlessly, the rabbit hole is endlessly Byzantine. You just go crazy. It seems like maybe it's more productive to just concentrate on the kind of reality we want to see and we want to get to, versus trying to figure out what's going on now, because maybe it's well, very likely it's impossible. All right, well, 1950s Galactic Federation agreements. What? 1950s Galactic Federation. So what, has the Mandela been watching like too much Star Trek or what? I'm assuming that this is some kind of real thing. Galactic Federation agreements. All right, now that's Coast to Coast AM, so that's going to be theoretical stuff by, you know, woo-woo kind of stuff. Jupiter agreements. All right. Former Israeli space security chief says extraterrestrials exist. I think that's the one that just came forward recently. Snopes. NASA releases statement following alien rumors. These translated quotes show Eshed claiming that humans had made contact with aliens. Secret underground base exists on Mars. And that the Galactic Federation has signed an agreement with officials in the United States. Okay. Trump was on the verge of finding out, but the aliens in the Galactic Federation say, wait, let the winds calm down. At first, they do not want mass hysteria. I don't think we're going to get mass hysteria, so I don't know. They have waited until today for humanity to evolve and reach a stage where we generally understand what space and spaceships are. Okay, whatever. I mean, none of this is official, so I don't think we have an official Galactic Federation. We have a lot of rumors about something. Okay, I can't find anything official about a Galactic Federation, but you know, that term is just so loaded. Gene Roddenberry was part of that in the 50s and made Star Trek based on it, so they say. Who the heck knows? What came first, the chicken or the egg? Woo-woo Mandela's. I don't know. Like, all of Mandela is woo-woo. I mean, there's like even more weirdly woo than the regular woo. I mean, you think about it, like Arctica magically disappearing and South America moving magically is even more weird than aliens visiting, because at least the concept that aliens got in a ship and flew over here kind of follows general conventional physics and concepts of reality. The Mandela doesn't. So we have to pretty much, you know, along with maybe the only thing maybe more crazy. No, that isn't even that much more crazy. I mean, I want to say flat Earth is more crazy than us, but not really. It really isn't. So, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I would never believe the Mandela if I hadn't seen it myself repeatedly in extreme versions of it. But space is fake. Reality is fake. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, I think I'm done with my crazy ruminations for today. I just know that everything I was following from UFO to spirituality to patriot stuff are now all in one pot. They all say the same thing. There's definitely been certain convergences. Let's only hope that these are reasonably accurate convergences, that they are leading us in hopefully a good direction. My main feeling is I think we really should try to concentrate hard on the reality we want. I mean, if thoughts create reality, then the way to funnel everything in a good direction would be to concentrate on that direction. If you believe in that woo-woo stuff. All right, I think I'm so far off the rails, I better just call it, especially because I have like 1 more minute. So thank you all, especially Shari, for all the wonderful Mandelas this evening. You know the drill. Think good thoughts. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.